Welcome to the Beats and Balance podcast, a space for conversations at the intersection of creativity, healing, and community. Each week, we sit down with artists, healers, and everyday people to explore stories of transformation, resilience, and the ways we use creativity to survive and thrive.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Beats and Balance podcast. Today we have with us Jenna Pantin Bermudez, who's the visionary founder of Chaconia Candles, a brand born out of love of the vibrant culture of Trinidad and Tobago. With over 18 years of experience in marketing, communications, sustainability, and DEI, Jenna transitioned from corporate life into entrepreneurship, building a company that offers a true sensory escape from the Caribbean, or to the Caribbean. Through Chaconia Candles, she merges cultural appreciation, mental wellness, sustainability, and community impact, turning candles into more than products. They're a celebration of heritage and a pathway to healing. And we are super excited to have you here with us today. Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. So let's get into it. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and how you came into entrepreneurship and kind of doing your own things, and also how that mixes in with your healing practices.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago. I moved into the US in my late 20s. So definitely had my upbringing there. And my exploration around the Caribbean, as well as my roots there, inspires our work. So Chaconia is actually the national flower of Trinidad and Tobago. Okay. Looks a little bit like that. That's more of a minimalistic type of design, but it looks like that. And so it was always about elevating the Caribbean diaspora and bringing a piece of my home to yours. You know, even from the exploration around the Caribbean, we meet our brothers and sisters across the Caribbean, and our culture is so interconnected. And we wanted to definitely bring that to life as well. And it's funny how scent transports you to the, whether it's family traditions or culture or celebrations or a cherished memory. And we definitely wanted to bring that to life through our candles and home fragrances. It's really a sensory escape to the islands.
I love that. So you started off in corporate leadership. You did that for 18 years. What was the turning point that led you to commit to entrepreneurship? Because that can be a really hard jump for people to go from like having that structure.
A very hard jump. Yeah. You know, I felt like I was always called to entrepreneurship, but growing up in the Caribbean, if you have a Caribbean parent, you know, it's always get a good education and a good job, climb up that corporate ladder. And so that was the trajectory. But I was always encouraged also along the way as I was called to entrepreneurship. Around 14 or 15, I had a holiday gift basket business. For 2 years during the Christmas holiday time. I would go where my dad's office was and kind of like go to those different offices and see if they wanted holiday gift baskets for clients. So I was called to it in so many different ways along my life. But definitely continued, you know, get my bachelor's, my master's, a slew of degrees and certificates, and went on to lead really great departments in terms of communications and DEI. However, I kept getting called back to it. And I remember there was a clip that I saw with Steve Harvey, and he said, when you are taking that risk, it's going to feel like you are skydiving and free falling. And I skydived before, so I know what I felt like. I close my eyes and I'm free falling. You're scared. It's fast. But he said eventually that parachute is going to pull and you're going to glide. And I knew it was going to be really hard taking that jump, taking that leap. And it's truly a leap of faith, but I did it. And I knew it was the time. You know, I'm very spiritual. I'm a woman of God. You know, I focus on my prayer and purpose. And I knew I was going to be called to that in that moment. So I took the jump, not having everything aligned, but I took that jump and, you know, I haven't looked back yet. Do you have moments of like scare? Of course you do. As an entrepreneur in a small business, you would have that along the way. But I knew it was that time to take that leap of faith, and I did it. And I was so happy that I did it because I really wanted to pay full attention, full focus on bringing our culture, our cultural heritage, you know, everything about the Caribbean to life through our candles and home fragrances. And I couldn't do that while working in the corporate space. And that's for me. You know, everybody's journey is very different, but that's for me. And I certainly, I'm really grateful to be able to have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think that's really something that a lot of people right now are thinking about jumping into. You know, in the States right now, there's been this big news story about how like 30,000 Black women have been pushed out of corporate or more governmental jobs. And a lot of those folks now are turning into entrepreneurship. So I think we're seeing this big boom now where Black women in particular are kind of like, well, I have these skills. And so like I can make my own lane with them instead of using it to work and make profits for others.
Absolutely. And it's really embedding what you know, right? So like that knowledge, that understanding, all the experience, the culminating experience that I have, because I worked in retail before, and then of course communications and DEI and all the stuff, sustainability, it comes together. And then you kind of see, well, because at first there was a point in my life where I thought, okay, when I made that jump, did I make a mistake? You know, you question yourself, and you know, was all the degrees and all my experience, you know, is it going to be wasted? And you're thinking about it, and sometimes in that way. But at the same time, when you really look at it, you are taking all that knowledge, all that experience, and you're embedding it into your business. You're embedding it into something that you believe in. You're embedding it into your purpose, your calling, all the skills and gifts and talents, and you're bringing it to life. So I do think it's really important. And if there's a group of people that can, it's Black women.
Yeah, for sure. We already do all the things anyway. But yeah, I think it is. I think it's a mental block. I think that a lot of people had for a long time because you're kind of told that like to be successful, you need to get one of these jobs.
Right.
You need to work for somebody else, which, you know, is kind of stupid because if you really want to be successful, the only way to really do that is to not work for, you know, you'll be stuck climbing a corporate ladder for your whole entire life.
And you're building generational impact, right? Yeah. So whether it's generational wealth or generational understanding of what a business is, you know, I have two kids, a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're both part of the business in different ways. So I incorporate them, whether it's in scent sampling, or whether it's in mixing, or whether it's dropping off something. They ask questions, and I love that curiosity of the minds. And it's really about helping them and telling them, you know, it doesn't have to, your career path doesn't have to be linear either. It doesn't have to be a certain title, doctor, lawyer, engineer, but it also doesn't have to be linear. If you go one path, it's okay if you go to another path, or it's okay if you do both, right? Or multifaceted career, that's okay too. So I think it's important to teach that to the next generation as well.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I think also giving them the example that they really have the power to choose and do what they want is a very liberating and revolutionary thing that a lot of us didn't grow up with, you know?
That's right.
My mom is a lawyer, and like, you know, that was like the ingrained in me to be like, this is what success looks like. But then when I really looked at her life, I was like, oh, you don't even like your job. You know what I mean? Like, you're not even happy. So I think my generation kind of grew up looking at that and being like, I think we were lied to. And
I think they did it for survival.
No,
I think a lot of them did it for survival, right? And so now our generation is kind of like, well, does it have to be this way? You know, maybe there's another path, and it's okay to have that other path, you know?
Yeah, no, I love that. So yeah, I think it's very freeing, and I think it's hopeful to me to see that so many people are taking the initiative, because it is scary to take the leap of faith, like you said. And a lot of people get stuck in like scarcity thinking. Like they may have this idea and they're like, oh, well, there's like 1,000 candle companies. Why would somebody want my candles? And you get stuck there and never move forward. Meanwhile, there's a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Checkers on every block, and there's
still a Starbucks here and a Dunkin' Donuts here, or whatever the case may be. There's like, Yeah.
So I love when people are able to like move past those blocks, because it really is just like mental blocks. So let's talk a little bit about sustainability, because I know that's the core of your mission. What was the reasoning behind that being so deeply embedded in your brand, and also like the healing aspect of what you do as well?
Yeah. So to me, sustainability is culture in action, right? So it's all about what you're doing for your home, and what you're doing for your community. And growing up in Trinidad, I feel like Trinidadians and Trinbagonians and a whole people in the Caribbean didn't even know that they were sustainable, you know, like the big core buzzword sustainable, before it even came around. It was always waste, not want not. You grew up with little and you grew up with not wasting. And so I can tell you, growing up, it was always about repurposing. It was always about reusing. And certainly as the years go by, you see different programs are in place now for recycling and really expanding sustainability as a whole in the Caribbean, and different countries are doing the work, right? And different people, we are doing the work individually, which I think is really important. So it's always been embedded into our business. From the moment I started Chaconia Candles, I really wanted to ensure that the product itself was safe. So one, I wanted to make sure it was safe for my home and for my community's home, because these are things that you're breathing in. So we ensure that all our home fragrances and candles and our body products have no sulfates, no phthalates, no parabens, no reproductive toxins, no organ toxins. We want to make sure that you're breathing in this thing that is safe and is in your home, or it's a safer option for you. But also in terms of packaging, in terms of reducing our carbon footprint and like doing our pad, that was really important to us too. So we look into different ways, and we're on a sustainability journey. I always say this, like, we are not perfect. We are not coming out here saying, we are the best in sustainability, but we're doing our part, and we're continuing to look to see, okay, every year I take strategic steps in making sure that we're taking another step forward in our sustainability journey. Okay, so what are we doing in terms of paper usage? Or what are we doing in terms of our suppliers? Like, are we holding them accountable? Do we need to shift suppliers if they're not accountable? So when we started, we were a certified Jersey City Green business. And then we moved on to being registered with the Environmental Protection of New Jersey as a sustainable business. And these certifications and being registered as a sustainable business is no easy feat. Like, you have to prove with data that you are doing the work. And every year you actually have to add 2 more categories as well to ensure that you're doing the work. And it's intentional, and you have to, for us, it's being authentic as well. So we're literally looking at our journey as we go along and continuing to provide different aspects within our business to ensure whether we have to tweak something or add something or do something differently to ensure that we're becoming more and more sustainable and doing our part. I mean, the islands are beautiful, but they're vulnerable, and so is the entire earth. So we have to do our part to ensure that we are keeping the preservation of the earth and the islands.
Very cool. Yeah, I wasn't aware that there was so much that goes into the certification. So I can imagine there's like a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
But I love that. I think it's super important to be intentional. And especially, like, a lot of people don't realize with the candles, in the sense that you should be paying attention to what's in your candle.
Oh, 100%.
A lot of these big brands, they're just poisoning you.
Right. And they use so many different things. And sometimes we are affected with our health and we don't know why, right? And it can be as simple as that. I mean, there's certainly different products that have reproductive toxins. And if you're trying to bring life into the world and you're wondering, maybe something is wrong, it could be as simple as switching your candle. There's so many things that are placed into products, carcinogens, right, that you're literally breathing in. And if you don't have a well-ventilated area or room or home, that certainly can impact you even more. So you just have to be really careful what you bring into your home, just as much as you're careful with your physical health, right? In terms of like exercise and running, or the things that you eat, you have to be careful also with what you're lighting in your home or what you're breathing into your home in terms of home fragrances, etc. So for instance, our room and linen sprays, we make it with an organic witch hazel base. So that's something that is also safe to spray on a pillow or your sheets or something like that. And even our body products, we ensure, because your skin is your major organ. So we want to make sure that it's safe for your skin as well. So it's really important, I think, for us to ensure that we're doing our part for our community.
Yeah, I love that. Especially because there's so many Black women that struggle with like fibroids and difficult
PCOS, endometriosis, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then nobody is like understanding where it's coming from. And then you look around and you're like, every single thing in my house is toxic. The toilet is toxic, the pads are toxic, the hair is toxic. So yeah, I love that.
And I think sustainability is that, right? It's like gaining. So for me, it was really taking a deep dive. My mom lit candles before, and there was that black suit, and we never even thought twice about it. I was like, oh, okay, that's part of what a candle is. And not knowing that's a carbon buildup, and you don't want to really have that. You want to ensure that your candles are clean burning, right? So for me, sustainability is all about acquiring knowledge too, and really being curious about it. Like, keep researching, keep learning, keep growing, because a lot of these things I never knew before starting Chaconia Candles. And every year there's a new study done and you're like, wait, what? Huh? What?
Mm-hmm.
This is wrong, or this is toxic, or this is, and it's really getting a better understanding of the ingredients that we use and certainly the suppliers as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's super important. For me, it was like I have endometriosis, and then my wife had cancer. So when she got diagnosed, I went through like a deep dive of like, all right, what do we have to get rid of? And then it was like,
Yep.
oh, we have to get rid of everything.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
before you get to that point, people should be making these decisions, or at least have the awareness. I think it's a disservice that nobody knows, and there's no push to make these brands talk about what they're putting in their products. So when there is one that comes out and they're upfront with it, I think that's super great.
Yeah, and I think there's that focus of mass production, right? And so for us, being a small business, we're making it in small batches. It's the high quality. It's that aspect of like really intentionally ensuring that it's safer. So it's not about mass production equals high profit. It's not that, we want to make sure that we're making a product that is bringing that wellness, as, we want to talk about a little bit later, like expanding the wellness opportunities and self-care and mindfulness and things like that. But we want to also ensure that it's safe for your home as you're breathing it in. And I do have endometriosis too, and I have PCOS. My mom has fibroids. My husband's family has cancer in his family. So it says we really want to make sure that if there's anything that we need to adjust, throw away from our home or whatever the case may be, or replace, that we're doing that. And that's where I started with the business. I wanted to ensure that it was safe for my family and an extension, the community.
Yeah, I definitely love that. And also because it's hard to find places. Like, it's like you have to do a lot of research. So for folks that are listening, you don't have to do any research, right? These candles are completely safe. I'm going to cop some myself. I stopped burning candles altogether just because I was like, I don't even know what I can
You don't know what is what.
Wax is the wax you're supposed to, I don't know. I just stick to my incense. But now I'm like, all right, I'll cop some candles from you guys.
Important, yeah.
All right, so beyond the candles, you've also expanded into free virtual wellness resources. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what brought that about?
So we have our candles, right? We have our candles, we have our room sprays, we have the reed diffuser, we have fragrance oils, our body products. But I wanted to offer wellness services, and I wanted to offer it for free. It was really important for me to offer these wellness services for free because I wanted it to be accessible to everybody. You don't have to buy a candle to acquire wellness, right? You don't have to make any type of subscription or anything like that to have access to wellness. And I wanted wellness to be not just accessible, but quick, because I know we're living in a very busy world. I get it. It has to be micro learnings, micro access, micro this and micro that. So these are micro wellness videos. So they're about 10 to 15 minutes each. And we worked with Mariah Claxon, who is a certified yoga instructor and Pilates instructor. And she did 3 for us as we focused on breath work. We focused on mindful meditation and yoga. And then the other one was a song bath. What we did is brought together our scents and the aromas and that sensory escape to the Caribbean through her videos, but also bringing you that access to any type of mindful wellness. And so we really wanted to do this, and it finally came to life earlier this year, and I was really excited to launch it. And again, it's just really ensuring that we have an opportunity for our community to take some time for themselves. There's just so much going on in this world, and it's so chaotic and it's such a stressful time. And I feel like each year is trying to do better, like trying to do more than the year before, right? And so, because we launched in 2020, and as you continue to go on, I feel like the chaos is just spewing, and we wanted to bring the space and time just for 10 minutes a day, so that you can take some time for yourself. A lot of us pour from an empty cup, and even though we really set an intention to reset and to rebuild, sometimes that just doesn't happen with the busyness of the day and the chaos of the day. And so we wanted to bring these 10-minute videos that you could do in your car when you're driving, or while you're brushing your teeth in the morning, or whatever the case may be, because I do believe that wellness should be accessible for all.
100%. I love that. Where can folks find your wellness videos?
Yeah, so they can find it on our website, www.chaconiacandles.com. So I'll spell out Chaconia. So it's Chaconia, candles.com. And we have a tab at the top called Wellness Series, and you're able to access all 3 videos there.
That's lovely. That's awesome. I think that's super cool.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's that's how this whole situation kind of was birthed, was just like out of this feeling of like, all right, everybody needs to just sit down and take a break and breathe. Because myself,
Literally breathe.
yeah,
Literally. I remember working in the DEI space. We brought in someone to do breath work for trauma within the Black community. And it was so crazy to me that when she started to do the breath work, and she told us in terms of being mindful, in terms of where our breath was. That's how it started. Where is our breath? And I never knew that I was taking short breaths. Never knew. Never knew that. And I was literally taking short breaths for a long period of time. And so she said, that's where you're holding your trauma. I was literally breathing and not knowing it. And so we were taught how to actually breathe. And I never even knew that I had to be taught how to breathe. Yeah. I mean, breathing is just the way of life. You know, you were born and you're breathing, wah, and that was it. But I never knew that I was holding my trauma here. And having to learn how to breathe was just something that I think should be available to everybody. And just having those moments.
It's super huge. I had a similar experience. I think when I was like 30, somebody was like, you don't know how to breathe. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, all right, like try following, like, I don't know, one of those, like, I post them on our website now, or on our Instagram now all the time.
Amazing.
I do them too. But like the box breathing, and I couldn't I couldn't breathe in long enough. And it was just and I was like, oh wow, like I can't breathe.
Didn't even know that,
I had no idea my whole life.
It's so crazy, the things that you learn in your 30s and 40s. It's crazy. Yeah. But it's, I think it is important for us to know, so that now we know, now we can continue to, and then sometimes we have moments where we have to reset it, right? Because there are times where we go back into that space of not breathing. Yeah. And we have to remind ourselves, remind our heart, remind our breath work to kind of come back into that space. So as you said, whether it's the triangle or whether it's the square, you're kind of relearning or telling yourself how to breathe again. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, no. Full transparency. I did it this morning and I sucked at it and I was like, oh wow. Like I forgot.
I think it's okay. I think it's really important for us to be authentic with ourselves. Like, it's not always going to be, every single day is not going to be birds and rainbows. And we have to kind of like work through each moment, each day. And now that you have tools, right? The wellness series are tools. The things that you're doing are tools that you have to be able to bring yourself back full circle and give yourself, like, again, refilling your cup and then giving yourself that time to pause and breathe and bring it back, to the reality of life, and then you'll be okay.
Yeah. Let's hope. But yeah, no, I think 100%. I think it is something that for me is important to be super radically authentic and honest.
Yes.
About my journey, because we live in a society that's very like social media perfection. Mm-hmm. Like everybody's having a great time all the time. Yeah. I looked at my social media once and I was like, wow, if you look at my life, you would think everything is great, and it is not that way. So let me actually be real with people, because I think a lot of folks carry a lot of shame and feeling like, oh, why can't I do this? Or why doesn't my life look like this? And they're not realizing that you're looking at a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Like everybody is struggling. We're all out here struggling. And I think the more honest we can be about that, the more help everybody receives and feels more comfortable in just being themselves. So 100% agree with that.
So true. And I think it's really, as I think again of our kids, it's really important to bring that to them. We're constantly having that conversation, like not everything that you see is true. Not everything that you see, because they would ask these questions, how come I do this? And how come I do this? Or, not everything you see is true. And there's a lot of people probably in the back end and production teams working to ensure this video looks authentic, but it's not.
100%. Yeah, no. I used to work in media, and the behind the scenes is that, these people, every person that you see out there has 25 people working for them to make them look as good as you see them.
100%,
none of that is any, so nobody should have any shame that they're not at any level that they see.
Exactly. Or seeking the validation outside. And I think, it's important to have this not just intrinsic motivation, but intrinsic validation,
Yeah.
not always waiting for the likes or the follows or whatever the case may be. And I think that's really important. And it will come. I always say it will come. You just speak in your truth, and you're intentional, and you're authentic, and you're genuine, and you're walking in your purpose. Everything else will come. Everything else. Yeah.
100%. 100% feel that. All right. So let's get into you receiving the honor. You got the Union County. Shout out to Union County. My mom's in Essex County, so I know.
Oh, nice.
And the award represent the Shiro Award. So talk a little bit about that and what the recognition means to you personally, and how you continue to do in this work, and what your plans are for the future.
Yeah. So the Union County Shiro Award, we were awarded this year along with other women. So they did it for Women's History Month. And there were so many other women that are doing impactful work in the community. So we're really honored and recognized, in that space. And I really and truly feel honored just being recognized, because there were so many other women. And when I say they're doing incredible work, they're doing incredible work, whether it's for homeless, whether it's for women, whether it's for kids, firefighters, whatever the case may be. So when we receive that award, it's an award about community and what you give back in the community. So for us, it could be a slew of different things, whether it's our donations to the community, whether it's our workshops, whether it's what we do in terms of sustainability and our wellness offerings, etc. And so it really was something for us that felt it was just not an award for us, but an extension for everyone that we're impacting and that we're supporting and that we're helping and guiding. One of the steps forward that I would like to continue to do, I love teaching. So I love teaching, and I love teaching youths specifically. So I want to pay it forward. Each one teach one. I really want to ensure that I'm continuing to do that work in terms of building the next generation of entrepreneurs, local artists and artisans and crafters, etc. So one of the things that we're looking for in the future is to give back in that way, and it's cultural advocacy and community. The next thing that we, in terms of our goals and our strategic goals, is e-commerce excellence. So last year we were recognized in the e-commerce excellence space by Caribiz Network. We were nominated in that category for the Islands Icon Award. And, we're continuing in terms of innovation. Look at where we are. Like, AI is everything, right? And this is not just ChatGPT. It's like everything, and it's embedded in everything. And how could we use innovation to continue to support our community and to continue building what we're doing? And then the third thing is in terms of global brand recognition. So we want to ensure that we are recognized in our trajectory right now, and recognized as a global brand for Caribbean-inspired scents in your home. And so those three things are our top focuses right now. And of course, mental wellness and sustainability is embedded in each of them. So, but the big part about it is coming back to cultural advocacy. Mm-hmm. I grew up with parents that are big givers. They're big servers, right? Mm-hmm. So, I would come home and miss items. I would come home and I'm missing my clothes, I'm missing shoes, and it would always be like, somebody needed this and somebody needed that. I can't tell you how many mornings we've had people who are homeless that literally knock our door, ring our bell. And my brother and I would joke, because my dad, he's a chef at heart, and he would cook up this big breakfast. And I'm not talking about like, he's cooking up this big breakfast for anybody who comes knocking. And my brother and I would joke and be like, what? We getting cereal? Are you kidding? But it's so good to have grown up in that, both my mom and my dad giving back. And my mom called me this week as well, doing the same thing. She's giving back to somebody whose house was on fire. I grew up with that, and it's embedded in who I am. And so I always wanted to give back. And I think one of the paths for me is with youth. And so figuring out what that aspect is, it looks in the form of a foundation in terms of supporting the next generation of young entrepreneurs and local artisans. So that's a big, big, big goal for us moving forward.
I love that. Reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother was a person that, like, her door was never locked, and people would just always come in. And one time, this dude would come like from off the street. I think he had like some mental issues. Just walked into her house, and she like just sat him down and made him dinner. just a lot. And then we like my uncle came in and was like, "What is happening?
What is going on?"
Like that was just like from the next like couple whatever months, weeks, we just knew that dude. He would come by, have food, leave, and it was just like that was just normal. So
and it's like they serve with love. Like that's their first thing. There's no judgment. There's no nothing. The first thing that they do is love and empathy, right, for that person. And I think that's really what set everything forward for me in terms of serving our community in different ways and giving back. And, you know, somebody might say, are you not looking to grow into this big business? And that's not, like, anytime they ask about that in terms of being a goal, global recognition is one thing, but being this big bucks brand, that's not one of our goals. I'm okay being small. I'm okay having a small business and creating impact. Like when I leave this earth, I want to know that I did something that added value to something, to somebody, to our community, to my family and our kids. You know, that's big goals for me, you know, not having mass productions or big bucks profits and all of these things. That's not it for us.
No, 100%. I'm somebody that deeply believes in energy. And so like the way you're talking about like making small batches and the intention that you put into it, like people are burning that energy in that home and you know, that's adding to their, and so like, true. You know, when you're buying mass produced things, like there's no spirit in that.
No, not at all. Not 100%. At all.
I love that. I think it's important. I think for me, like, a lot of the issues that I see happening in the world, I can boil down to capitalism. And I think a lot of people get afraid when you start saying like, well, there's issues with capitalism because they're like, well, we need to eat. How are we supposed to survive? Right. And it's like, you can critique a large system, but still have your own business and do things in a way that is sustainable or the way that's giving back to the community, that's not extractive. So you can still hustle and make your money, but it doesn't have to be in a way that is detrimental to other people or to the planet. Right. And so, yeah, I love that. I think this is a perfect model of what I'm trying to explain to people, which is like, I have no issues with entrepreneurs. I have no issues with people making money. In my dream life, I have to see all Black people living well, prosperous. I think in activist scenes that I'm a part of, there's this, I would say there is a idealization of poverty of like, oh, we're struggling and that's what it means. Yeah. Like, nah, like I came from poverty. I'm not trying to go back.
Right. Right.
That's not right. The goal is not for us all to be struggling. The goal is for us all of us to be doing well and living prosperously. And there are ways to do that without knocking somebody else down.
So, absolutely. And you're building wealth, right? You're building generational wealth. And the other thing is, when you think about, you know, the community, when you think about the work that you do, I think poverty is like subjective, you know, like some people might say, like if they look at my life growing up, they might say, you know, I was poor. But at the same time, we were happy. And half the time we wouldn't even really know, you know, our mothers my mother was making, and my dad would make food from scratch. And half the time you wouldn't necessarily know because you were happy. Right. And in their way, unbeknown to us, because we were kids and we were so carefree, we didn't know that they were trying their best to build that next generational wealth, you know. And we've done it before in communities. And I think it's so important to look at that when you think about Black Wall Street or you think about other different aspects in time and historical times where we see the Black community bringing the dollars and keeping the dollars, right? Yeah. And moving it along within our community. I think that's really important to think about as we look at how we can move forward and build together.
100%. I love it. I think that's what I think we need to all go back to. And I think that is what is natural for Black folks, immigrants, people of color in general, is this sense of community. Like I think we are all, or most of us have been raised in this sense of community. And the US is a place that really pushes individualism. But I think once we get back to that core, you know, like the best times of my life were when I was at my grandparents' house and then my Nana, and we had nothing, but you would never know. I thought she was rich my whole life until she died, had nothing. Right. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah. because she just had $100 bills she'd be passing out. That was her last $100 bill, but nobody knew.
Nobody knew. Yeah.
But like that to me is real. Like you said, like real wealth was the joy of being in that family unit and having community, and everybody's fed and everybody's having fun. So yeah, I really think that where I would love to see is like that kind of sense, but without the struggle. You know what I mean? Like I want us all to go back to that and also just be able to live freely and without the struggle. And I think what you're doing is a perfect example of how that can be modeled, because you're doing something where you have freedom to create your own business. You're also being able to teach your kids and provide jobs to them, which with all these corporate jobs, you can't really, there's nothing you're passing down to that, unless you're the big boss, your kids are not going to be able to profit from that. Exactly. And so, I think what you're doing to me is super amazing, super important. All these nuances, I think it overlooked, really make an impact. So I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that we haven't talked about, or is there anything that you have coming up that you want to plug or talk about?
So a few things. So like this, I just wanted to mention, it's really important to have a support system, of course, the support system of family and friends, and of course, your customers and your clients. However, I think it's really important to also continue expanding our network. Mm-hmm. And I know network and networking are such buzzwords, but it's really important to do so. And we found a really good network with Caribiz Network. So Dr. Nicole Grimes is the one who leads Caribiz Network. She's the founder and CEO. And I was able to connect with so many other Caribbean business owners from so many different categories and facets. And it was amazing to not just attend workshops, because she's working with different people and different companies, including Chase Bank and whatever the case may be, and providing access to things. So that's just one example of really and truly attaining networks and continuing to build out who you know and connect with people. And you just never know where conversations can take you. Sure. And these are genuine, organic conversations that oftentimes ends up being my new wholesale partners, or ends up being me supporting somebody else and connecting them with another person, and they are forming a wholesale partnership, or whatever the case may be. So I think networking is really important in its own way, but organically, The other thing that I wanted to mention is, as we continue to expand, really important for us is our storytelling. Mm. So when we think about Chaconia Candles, it's not just through scent, it's certain, and it's not just through brand packaging and all of that, but it's the storytelling of our culture, our cultural heritage, the Caribbean, my lived experiences, the exploration around the Caribbean. So let's say, for instance, 2 years ago, we did an ode to Grenada. Mm-hmm. And we named our fall collection Spice Isle. And so it was really and truly beautiful spices that we wanted to bring to life in this collection. And a portion of the proceeds went in support of the recovery efforts after Hurricane Beryl. Mm-hmm. So we are really putting in the work and putting in the efforts to connect all Caribbean islands as we continue to do the brand storytelling. We want to really bring it to life in terms of the scent and again, the packaging and the storytelling and all different aspects of Chaconia Candles. We recently also did a luxury candle collection. It's our first one. We went to Bermuda for the first time. And it was really interesting to see when you walk through the museum in Bermuda and talk to the locals in Bermuda, where the cultural Caribbean heritage was influenced in Bermuda. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking Bermuda island, but they don't consider themselves a Caribbean island, but there's Caribbean influence. So it was so unique to really take a deep dive into it. And it was just so beautiful to connect. So you have Bermuda is so multicultural, and it reminded me of Trinidad and Tobago. So we have this, our national anthem talks about every creed and race, because you can get every single race there, every single background, We celebrate every religion. I'm lighting diyas for Diwali and I'm eating your curry and I'm going to Eid al-Fitr, and we're celebrating that as well. We're celebrating spiritual Baptist, everything. And it's all about this togetherness. And we want to bring that to life in our candles and home fragrances as well.
I love that. One side question. This is a personal, not a personal question, but how's the reception been with your brand and bringing it home to the Caribbean, especially with like the wellness aspects, like the breath work and things like that? Is that something that is well known and done down there, or is it something that like people are kind of looking at you like, what are you bringing this like Western stuff here?
It's definitely, and you're talking specifically about Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, or like wherever you've gone in the Caribbean. I know when I like talk about this stuff when I've gone back to my hometown, even in upstate New York, people are kind of like, you're on this woo-woo. Like, I'm wondering like what it's like in Trinidad. Like, is it something that's already happening there? Or?
So Trinidadians are very receptive to wellness. And I think because, again, a different generation, right? Our parents were full survival mode. In their mind, no time for wellness. What is wellness, right? Mm-hmm. And I think with millennials and other generations now, Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, in their own way, they're looking at self-care as such an important, it's not a luxury. It's something that is absolutely a necessity.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about really having a conversation about wellness, I think it's so important because they're seeing how a lack of wellness is impacting them. They're seeing a lack of self-care and how that's impacting them. So it comes in different forms, whether it's for physical health, mental health, and then they're having an understanding that they're interconnected and you can't separate it. You can't separate your physical and your mental. You really, when you think about your wellness pie, the financial, the spiritual, they're all interconnected. So I think more and more those conversations are happening and they're seeing the importance of it.
I love that. Yeah, we had somebody on the show a couple weeks ago. It hasn't aired yet, but by the time this is out, hopefully it will. But she is from Nigeria, and she's starting like a whole like yoga wellness festival out there.
That's beautiful.
And so we got into that, like talking about what was that like, bringing that back to Nigeria. She had gone to India to learn all this stuff.
Wow.
So, it's so interesting to me how like people of the diaspora, and even, you know, whatever country that you might be from, coming and learning different practices and then bringing them home.
Yes.
What that reception is like. And so far from everybody I talked to, like it's been really like welcoming. And
yeah, it really is. They're welcoming for sure. And I think it's just finding ways to make it accessible because we also know the cost of living is different, right? In the Caribbean islands, and what they bring home is very different. So making sure that wellness is accessible to them, whether it's in the form of a candle tin, for instance, instead of a jar or whatever the case may be, figuring out how costs can be reduced and so that they could have access to it. I think it's also really important.
Yeah, I love that. I love that this global movement of wellness and self-care is taking root because I think that traditionally, if we went way back, these are things that we've always been doing in each of our cultures. I think it was something that was forgotten.
Yes.
Colonialism and all
or stripped away, right?
Yeah, forced us to be in this grind work mode. So to me, it's really like we're reclaiming what we started
That's right.
with. But sometimes with the different generations, that can get lost in translation. So I think it's really dope that it's something that
I think it's in their own way, right? Like my daughter, oh my gosh, she laughs all the time and she's like, Mommy, this is for millennials and Gen Z. And she's an alpha, she's 10. She was like, oh, for us, it's self-care and the beauty products. And I'm like, oh gosh. But when I look at her, she's taking a moment for herself and it may look different. And all I have to do is ensure that what she's putting on her skin is clean products.
Yeah.
But she's taking a moment for herself. And I have to applaud her for that because she's 10. And usually, I mean, when I was 10, I was running around, whatever the case may be, you know. So I do appreciate that she's setting the tone now so that she doesn't have to learn it later on in life.
Yeah. No, I have so much faith in the babies. I think the generation is gonna save us. I think every generation says that. But the kids, I think, will be all right. I see them and I'm like, oh, you guys were born with something different. I feel like they come to this earth.
I feel like each generation, as you said, is planting the seed, you know, and getting better and better at doing certain things and navigating certain things. I do think so.
Reclaiming their freedom. I see that a lot, which I think is awesome and should be the goal for us all. I think I love to see not just Black people, but everybody. Just being
everybody.
That's the goal.
Everybody. Yes.
And the way you're running your business and the things you're doing, it's really supporting that. So yeah, much. I don't want to say good luck, but much success and blessings to you, because I don't think you need
Thank
the
you. I
luck.
received
You already
it. Thank
got it.
you.
Yeah, I feel it. We're going to close out now. I really appreciate you being on here. Everybody listening, we will have the links and everything down in the show notes so you can check it out, buy some candles, show some support. And we will be back next Thursday. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for having
so much
us.
for being here, Jenna.
Thank you.
Right.
Our vibes stay sacred, our roots run deep.